Not too long ago, we took a hit of $5 million losses for our construction company. What I'm gonna be working or teaching you right now is how not to make those mistakes so you don't get fucked. You gotta learn to protect your business and you gotta learn how to protect your money. We're gonna be segmenting this video into setting up your company correctly. The second step will be how to allocate your funds from the business. And the third one is how to use those funds that you've been allocating differently to move your business forward. And if you end up in the situation of losing a large sum of money, you don't get fucked and your business can continue to roll. So setting up your business correctly doesn't just start with having an LLC. That's the most known common thing, but the moment you become a 1099, you're paying the most taxes. So for you to set it up correctly, you gotta start with a holding company. That's gonna be the mom of the little chickens. The holding company is what is gonna own your LLCs. What this does is separates you as an entity from your entities, meaning your LLCs will be owned by a holding company, and that holding company could even have a trust that is protecting the holding company. We won't get too much into detail with that because it can get a little tricky and complicated if you're really not putting attention. But if you do want to learn it a lot deeper, then we teach this in our online community where we go step by step on detail on how to go all the way from a trust to a holding to an LLC to be even better protected. And we do that through coaching and weekly calls, group calls, where we go through all the steps. The link for that is on the description. So once you set up your holding company and you have your LLC, what this does is gives you the ability from that holding company, meaning whatever name it is, to own multiple LLCs under one umbrella, meaning you're covering your companies with a company. What that does is it takes your name out of it. People will know that you are who you are because that's how you introduce yourself, but when they research the company, they will find an address, they will find a name, and they will find another name that owns it. If anybody comes after you, they can. They have to go through you, through your LLC, through the trust, and then before they can even get to you. That protects you for, let's be realistic, we're in the countries of lawsuits. They can sue you just because they didn't like how you arrived. You gotta protect that side because the business is your livelihood. It's not just what you can do with your hands, it's what you have been able to do over the years. You gotta be protected. That's one of the first things they will start to ask once you start getting into troubles is how do you protect the business? Once you're on this process and you start getting into money that you really have no use for, it's not that you don't have a use for it. You haven't completely learned on how to manage the income from the company. So this is where we go to separating and allocating the funds that the business produces. In some cases, and I will use my case for example, I move a lot of my funds into my holdings company because I personally do not receive payment from an LLC. I receive it from my trust. I allocate the money in a very different way. I use my companies to let my other companies borrow money from each other, which means I'm always within debt within my own businesses. I always separate 15 to 20% of my actual earnings aside from it, so where I always have running capital. I'm always on the process of growing the business. Even though I always say, well, once I get to this number, I'm gonna stop. It never does. You just become more ambitious and your ideas become wider and the people surrounding you become better. As this starts to happen, you're gonna find out that the only way to push a business forward is having the cash to do it. A lot of companies would like to go into debt with banks. A lot of other companies would like to go, put a second mortgage on their home. I try to make the least amount possible, not only because of taxes, I try to make the least amount possible because I want my business to have the most. I separate these assets because sometimes you go through the unfortunate part of losing money on some projects. Not because you quoted it wrong, it could be because it took a little longer than expected, materials came out to raise some price in the middle of the project. It could turn, you got one of your vehicles got in a crash. Yes, the insurance is gonna cover, but you still need a vehicle. You need new tools, you're trying to do some new project and you need a $30, $40, $50, $60, $70,000 project. Remember, the company is to serve clients and the clients don't need to pay the price of your inexperience on how to run your funds. It's not their fault that now the job is gonna cost longer because you gotta rent a machine that you could have bought. You need to be able to make your company flow within themselves. The company is supposed to be the one feeding the company, not you, not the bank, not other people. If you're going after big projects require big money. If you're not ready to put money out of pocket, meaning from the business, to buy the materials that you need and waiting for payment and all of this will extend the life of the project, which means you would actually end up losing money or making less just because you are not ready to take the expenses because let's be realistic, you want to have a show-off boat life. You want to tell people you make all this money, you want to have the trucks that you never drive, you want to have the house that you barely use, and you want to have the vacations that people dream with. That's bad management of money. I look at the business as, besides my family, the focus of my time. And I have to focus on varied directions of the business to be able to get to the next step, which it is to move it forward. To move the business forward, you don't only need money, you also need time. And where is your time better spent? Is it better spent in the office, on working on analytic part of your business, working on the structure of your business, or on the tools with the guys on the field? And those are things that we will talk in other videos, or you can join the community and listen to it firsthand. What we're gonna focus on is moving the company forward. To move the company forward means not only do you need to get more work, you can have the same amount of people doing more work than what they did the previous year. What you need is more people. You're gonna need more equipment. You're gonna need more vehicles. You're gonna need to get more things insured. You're gonna need to have somebody else in the office handling a new project that you're dealing with. You might have a different payout system with this company that you're going in, that where you require one worker to only handle that. If you're not economically ready to make these changes into the business, you might be losing into $1 million opportunity just because you are not willing to put money aside because you got better things to spend it on. The reality is we all do. We all have better things to spend it on. In my case, every year, if I'm not showing growth, I'm doing something wrong. So I got to start looking at everything I'm doing to make the changes. Company's supposed to grow at least 30% annually. If you're not increasing on a 30% annually rate, then you're staying behind everybody, right? By staying behind everybody, that means that now you're competing to try to get the jobs where they will only hire you if you're the cheaper guy. Wouldn't it be nicer than they just hire you because they know what you do and they know the quality of the work that you do and the jobs are coming to you versus you're going to them? Sounds a lot nicer, but it requires a lot of investment from the business and from yourself. Moving business forwards is not about how many more guys can I beat on price. It's about how many more new good clients I can add to the portfolio of the business. Not every big job that we get come from somebody new. Most of those jobs come from people that are been testing you for a certain amount of time. And when they get across a big job, they already know what they can get from you, so they'll give it to you. Only if you have the manpower to handle it. If you can handle this work, or you're trying to hire people and you don't know what to pay them because you have no money in the bank to pay them with, then your next resource is, well, the job should be paying for these people. It will over time, but it will not at the beginning, right? So if you're not getting things set up correctly with how you set it up, how you're using the money and how you are putting the money around and how you are thinking about moving your business forward, you're gonna make a fatal mistake of having to say no to work that could get you to not only one, it could get you to 3 levels ahead of where you're at, just because you were not ready. And then if you start getting into the situations where lawsuits are coming in and you're not ready to take on it, to either pay to let them go or go through the entire system with lawyers and courts and all of this, let's put it this way, you're fucked. It's not a fun place to be, and unfortunately, most of us had to be there, at least there once. The worst comes when you least expect it, and if you're not ready, it could put you in the ground. And that's how I was able to come back from a $5 million deficit. I'm just not gonna let something that small take my dream and my business away, saying, well, I wasn't ready. With that, if you wanna learn on depth on every single one of these items, please join us in our online community where we have group calls and exclusive content. The link for our online community is on the description. I hope to see you there. And if you guys want more free value, just subscribe.